Hello and thank you for tuning in again. My name is Devan, and that is coming because so many people complain, oh, you don't give your name and so on and so forth. My name is Devan, and it's good to be with you again today. So, if you recall, I did say that having looked at what Ponzi schemes are and all of that, how to avoid getting scammed and so on and so forth, things to look at, I did say that the follow-up video would examine the stand of the law in Nigeria with regard to Ponzi schemes. What happens to these people after they rip you off? Can they get away scot-free? Are there any remedial measures you can take? What can you do, literally? And also, what is the stand of the law with regard to the person who has been scammed? Now, scams happen in a variety of fashions, as we all know, but I'm specific to pyramid schemes. Each one bring 2 or each one bring 3. They don't have any product to sell. These are scams that are fashioned very much like multi-level marketing platforms, but they don't have any products to sell. Not digital and not physical either. It's just like a contributory scheme, but it's hinged on how many people you can bring in and so on and so forth. So with regard to pyramid schemes specifically, what is the stand of the law? Because there are some scams that are dressed up to look like a proper business. They're a proper business, it's a proper entity and so on and so forth. They're registered duly, but they sell you a piece of land that doesn't exist. It's not those ones this video is addressing. This video is specific to Ponzi schemes, pyramid schemes, and the like. So, in the course of researching this particular story, I stumbled upon a brilliantly written article that answered all of my questions, or rather most of the questions, because I still had to look through the internet for other sources as well. But I relied heavily on this article that you can see scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So that's the article I drew most of my content from, and also, the 2 writers. You can see that at the bottom of the screen, just to give them credit for their work. Now, to the crux of the matter. In Nigeria, any business or person that collects money from members of the public with the assurance of paying back such monies with interest is in breach of the law for the simple fact that in Nigeria, such transactions are reserved only for banks or other such financial institutions as recognized by the state and duly registered by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So, the bottom line is any person or entity that is engaged in such ventures that is not a bank or that is not registered with the Central Bank of Nigeria as an organization whose dealings involve getting money from people with a view to giving them interest back after a certain period of time, that entity, that individual, that business is a scam, it is fraudulent. That is where the law stands on Nigeria with regard to that. By a combined effect of sections 58 subsection 1 and 59 of the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act 2004, no person shall carry on financial business in Nigeria other than insurance and stockbroking unless it is a company duly incorporated in Nigeria and has a valid license granted to that company by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And we all know that many of these Ponzi schemes, pyramid schemes, to be quite frank, nobody asks them if they are registered under CAC, CBN, and all of these things. It just doesn't occur to you. I mean, at least not until very recently, most people may not have thought to themselves, how can I be sure that this is a valid entity? Because it kind of beggars belief that somebody will just sit down in their room and think up something that is absolutely illegal and be all over the place, sometimes on social media, sometimes advertising their products and services, even on radio and in the newspapers. Some of them are bold enough to go to television houses and so on and so forth. And once you begin to see this kind of media presence, there is a tendency to believe, just to assume, that everything else is all right with that entity. And usually that is not the case. So the fact remains that in Nigeria, anything that has to do with collecting money from individuals or organizations with a view to returning their money back to them with interest and so on and so forth, if that entity is not registered under CBN, it is illegal. It could jolly well be registered in other parts of the world, though. But in Nigeria, as long as it is not registered with the CBN, it is an illegal entity operating illegally. Additionally, Section 59, subsection 6B of the same Act I just read out, Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act 2004, in that same Act, Section 59, subsection 6B, states that participation in Ponzi schemes attracts a punishment of 5 years imprisonment or a fine of 1 million naira, or both, as the case may be. According to Section 67, subsection 2 of the Investment and Securities Act 2007, ISA 2007, engaging in Ponzi schemes attracts a fine of 100,000 naira for individuals and 500,000 naira for corporate entities. Now, I think you will agree with me that 100,000 naira, 500,000 naira, these are, at least where the scamming organization is concerned or the scamming individual is concerned, I feel that these are very paltry sums of money. Many of these scammers are able to rip people off to the tune of hundreds of millions of naira, and sometimes when it's really bad, it actually gets to billions of naira, and then they fall off the face of the planet and disappear. Now, in the instance that somebody has stolen this much money from the public, if they are arrested, is it 500,000 naira that's going to frighten them? Certainly not. It's a joke. It's a joke. Before you're done stating what the fine is, they're writing you a check and asking you if there's anything else. So it gladdened my heart to know that there's actually a bill at the moment which is sponsored by Honorable Babangida Ibrahim. It was introduced in the first quarter of this year, that's 2022. And the bill seeks to, among other things, propose a jail term of not less than 10 years for promoters of such schemes. The Vanguard newspapers reports that the bill seeks to repeal the Investment and Securities Act 2007, that's the ISA 2007 that I mentioned earlier, and enact the Investments and Securities Bill to establish the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, as the highest regulatory board in the nation's capital markets. Capital market is things to do with investments, money, and so on and so forth. So, based on the foregoing and all of this, I'm sure many of you are starting to think about a number of platforms you are aware of that might be running such schemes. We all know them. I don't think there's anybody within this generation who is literate, educated, and owns a smart device that has not been approached by scammers or stumbled upon some kind of scamming platform or been told about one by a friend or knows somebody who has been scammed and so on and so forth. It is pervasive in Nigeria at the moment. And you know, Nigeria and Nigerians, we're so used to hearing about how we are the ones who do the scamming that it doesn't occur to us that we can actually get scammed by non-Nigerians, and it happens with great frequency. I'm sure many of us remember MMM. It's a Russian company or firm or whatever they want to call themselves. Came into Nigeria, you know, give us this much money and we're going to give you between 30% to 100% return on investment within a matter of 30 days. And naturally, the people who came in at the beginning made good money. And before you know it, MMM was all over the place. People would, put in a little bit of money, after a short while get 100% of it back with some change and so on and so forth. It became very, very popular. It crashed. It crashed because the way it is designed is not sustainable. It robs Peter to pay Paul. It depends on people consistently coming in. How many people remember Ultimate Cycler? Ultimate Cycler was actually it was designed almost like, a contributory or local savings platform. You contribute this much money, bring this number of people under you to contribute the same amount of money to you, and they should bring, that way. And then when you have 6 people under you, you cash out this amount of money, and then you can upgrade to the next level, or you can. And many people were doing it and, smiling to the banks. It seemed. But the question remains: what happens if, after a certain stage, nobody patronizes the platform anymore? With Ultimate Cycler, that didn't even get to happen because it became so popular. With Ultimate Cycler, people didn't get ripped off. What happened was that the platform, everything was being done online. You'd go on and sign up and put your details and all of this. What happened was that there was such an influx that the platform could not contain it, and it crashed. That was what happened. They experienced technical difficulties. And even while they were in the midst of trying to sort that out and pleading with people, please stop logging onto the platform, we're working on the back end, we're trying to see how we can blah, 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 and all of this, it didn't work. Still, even if they hadn't developed technical issues, over time, Ultimate Cycler would have also crashed because it relied heavily on, in fact, it only relied on newcomers coming in to ensure that the cycle kept thriving. So, with these kinds of examples I've given, you should be able to have an idea of some of the ones that you're familiar with so that you can save yourself trouble and don't wind up signing up into these things. Now, another point you may have missed out from all the legal jargon of what I was reading. We all know that scamming, 419, in fact, that's the reason it's called 419. There's a part of the Constitution, section 419, I guess, I've never checked, that addresses issues of financial fraud and so on and so forth. So clearly it is a crime in Nigeria when you rip people off of their money. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, there are various kinds of scams. If you get involved in this particular kind of, thing, that is a pyramid scheme, and so on and so forth, if you lose your money, in Nigeria, you cannot take the matter to court on that grounds because the thing is already illegal. You cannot say, I didn't know they are not registered. As far as the law is concerned, ignorance is not an excuse. It's not enough reason. You cannot say, I didn't know the company was not registered. You are expected to do your due diligence. So you go and get involved in a blatant scam, and then you say, oh, I want to seek redress from the courts. You will not get justice, and let me explain why. In fact, you're likely to get yourself into trouble as well, because by even putting your money into something that is spurious, you yourself got involved in keeping that illegal scheme going. You kept it thriving. If you are really unlucky, chances are good that the scammer and you, the person being scammed, will be lifted together to go and help the police with the investigations, because you are not supposed to get involved in these kinds of things. Let's say, for instance, that there was a time when the borders were closed in Nigeria, and the borders are closed, and you're involved in this thing of maybe smuggling rice in or out of the country, and somebody rips you off of the money. Will you go to the police and tell them, I was trying to smuggle rice into the country, and the person I gave 20 million to has disappeared? They will arrest you first. And then when they are done with you, you will join them in helping to look for the second person that they need to arrest, because you also got involved in something illegal. So that's the premise upon which this whole thing is founded. It doesn't mean, however, that they go completely scot-free, because there are provisions in the Constitution to deal with people who do those things. So the state can prosecute. If it's the kind of scam where they seemed to have legal papers and everything and seemed to be a valid entity, okay, that is different. You want to buy land, you go through an estate agent that is supposedly registered and everything. You've seen the papers of the organization, valid. They have a proper office and everything. You know the faces, they show you the place and everything. You put your money into that and nothing comes out. You can sue. You can sue because right off the bat you were deceived into thinking that this was a proper business scheme. They have probably their CAC registration papers as a proper company. Maybe they even have proof of work done in the past. So you've done your due diligence. As far as you know, this is a valid business entity. But then they've sold you land that doesn't exist. That's different. You can take them to court. But when it comes to all these pyramid schemes, you need to know that as long as it is not a bank, as long as it doesn't have anything to do with stocks, investments, securities, and things like that, you are completely on your own. The law is not going to give you any succor if you go and get involved in things like that and you are ripped off. So you see, when I make these videos, the truth is I also learn quite a bit, and from learning I share with you. Nobody in Nigeria, apart from banks, the stock exchange, and so on and so forth, no other person or business entities are allowed to get involved in the business of collecting money from the public with a view to returning some kinds of interest to them, and blah, blah, blah. That organization or individual must be registered with the Central Bank of Nigeria to carry out such a business. That is one. Two, if you do go and get involved in this kind of business, or you are involved in promoting it in one way or another, let's say for instance you are an influencer and you're promoting a pyramid scheme, the day that platform runs aground, you are also going to be in trouble with the law. That's number two. So people promoting it, influencers, movie producers, music stars, and things like that, you need to be very careful of the kinds of services that you append your name to, especially if it has anything to do with, taking money from people. Do your due diligence. Be sure that the institution or organization or business, whatever, is registered before you begin to vouch for that entity. Number three, you, the person bringing your money to invest into this thing that to all intents and purposes is a blatant scam. If you get ripped off, you cannot go to the police because you are already involved in something illegal to begin with. And that is why these people do what they do with their full chest, so to speak. They know that at crunch time, if they steal enough money, they can skip the country and there's nothing you'd be able to do about it. If you found this content useful, continue to watch, like, share, comment, and subscribe. And come back again next week.